Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I'm Dr. Stephen Popp, head of school, and this is The Curiosity Corner, a podcast about the John Cooper School, where we explore the stories that make our school community special. From celebrating student achievements to exploring the big ideas shaping the future of learning and innovation, we're here to spark curiosity and foster connections in our community. Each episode, we will glean from the experiences of students, alumni, educators, thought leaders, and lifelong learners to demonstrate the power of curiosity in our pursuit of wisdom. We have some exciting topics to cover, so thank you for joining. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Curiosity Corner. We are thrilled here today to have Dr. Marc Brackett, the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, joining us. He's been on campus all day today, and you've made such a tremendous impact, not only at Cooper over the years, but today. So grateful to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I'm also thrilled to have Dr. Diego Estrada, our Director of Wellness, joining us for this conversation, as Diego has been integral in the implementation of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence's ruler approach over these past 8 years. So Diego, welcome to as well.
Thank you. Happy to be here too.
Oh, what a great conversation. Well, Dr. Brackett, thank you again for being here, coming back to our campus for the second time, and for working with our faculty and staff and our students, connecting with some of our parents. And we're just thrilled that you're bringing all your wisdom and also your insights that are in your new book, Dealing with Feeling, to our campus today.
Again, thank you.
Great. Well, as the Curiosity Corner, we are always interested in the intentional aspects of curiosity, how we curate it, what piques our curiosity. And I'm interested, Dr. Brackett, if you could tell us a little bit about what piqued your curiosity about emotions and how we deal with them.
Sure. How much time you got? I think, to put it concisely today, is that I struggled with my emotions as a kid. I had anxiety. I was very afraid in school. I didn't like school very much. I was bullied badly. And I didn't really know where to go with those feelings. So I did things that were not helpful. Like I ate my feelings. I cried a lot in my room alone. I screamed or misbehaved. And I don't want that to be the case for kids. I want everyone to be able to be aware of how they're feeling and have strong skills to deal with those emotions, whether it's in childhood or we as leaders sitting around the mic right now. We need strategies as we grow old to deal with friendships and leadership. And so that's kind of where my interest came from.
Yeah. And over your 25 years leading the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and you've written over 175 articles, your book, Permission to Feel, is translated into 32 different languages.
You can keep saying good things about me. I need a self-esteem boost today.
I think what's truly remarkable is that, what's powerful is that your interest in this that came from your personal perspective has now reached so many thousands, millions of people.
Yeah.
And you shared a number of things with our faculty today about what you've learned about in your research.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about, what is our current state of emotional understanding in the world today?
That's a big question. I think that most of the adults who are raising kids, the parents listening, the teachers who are teaching kids, didn't grow up in a society that necessarily valued emotions. We thought they were things to suppress, deny, like leave your feelings at the door, get over it, move on, suck it up. Those are the things that we learned. And so we struggle as adults, many of us, in understanding how we're feeling ourselves and having good strategies to deal with our own emotions. And it makes it harder for us to teach it to kids, which is why I learned this the hard way through my research and through running around the world trying to get people to do the work, was that I cared about kids like me and other kids I wanted them to have the language and the skills. But the implementation wasn't great. And it wasn't great because I forgot the missing piece, which was adult development. And so it's why I write books, because parents aren't going to go through a training necessarily, but they'll read a book to build their knowledge around the value and importance of the skills.
That's powerful. And in one of the things that jumped out at me about your new book, you led with a quote from Viktor Frankl, and Man's Search for Meaning is one of my favorite books.
Sure.
And I think it drives to the point of having a skill and that understanding of a real agency that we all have in this process of becoming more aware about our emotions, understanding them, and then doing things with them that will help us live a more purposeful life. So to that end, as you've moved forward with adults, what are the most efficacious strategies that you find that help adults move towards this?
Yeah, get the buy-in. I think this is something I spoke about with your faculty earlier today, which is that I felt the missing piece has been the mindset around emotions. That we never really were taught that emotions are data. Emotions are information. Emotions drive our attention, our decisions, our relationships, our health, our performance. And so oftentimes I start there with the research. Did you know that how you feel influences where you pay attention? Do you know that how you feel influences the choices you make, your performance? And then all of a sudden people get more interested because they see the value of it in their lives. Going directly for the skill, remembering, I know that many of the parents here are successful people, run companies. And I was at a very, very famous company. It's on the Hudson River, on the, big hedge fund. And I gave a speech, and the CEO looked at me and he goes, Marc, good talk, but, look at me. You think I need emotional intelligence? And he was in the glass corner office, kind of like yours, Steve. And what he didn't know is I had interviewed the 5 people that work for him prior, who all were having major issues with their boss. And so I think that we don't know what we don't know about our impact on people, especially on how we make people feel. And so making people more aware of that is critically important. And I'll just say one more thing in that opening piece, which is that this concept in my first book, which I call Permission to Feel, is really just about that. Like, do we just, I'm feeling anxious. Guess what? So are 7,500,000 other people. And there's nothing wrong with it. Anxiety is not a bad emotion. If you're not anxious about certain things in your life, probably something's wrong. I'm angry. Well, guess what? There's justifiable reasons to be angry in our society. Why not? It's not, the feelings are not good or bad. What gets in the way of our health and our relationships and our performance is how we deal with those emotions.
That's wonderful. Dr. Straw.
Now, in when we develop that mindset around emotion, what are some beliefs that maybe go against that mindset, and that perhaps are part of what many people have integrated as truths about emotions?
I think the big one is what I mentioned, which is that there are good and bad emotions. That happy is good, although, truthfully, no one would disagree. We want to be happier more of the time than sad or angry, of course. But also you can't be happy all the time. It's ridiculous. You're at a funeral, something bad happens in society, sadness, anger are all normal. But I think the hard part for people is seeing that there's a value, even, honestly, with kids in schools and at home, that it's okay for your kid to be sad for a little while. You don't need to fix the feeling. It's okay for your kid to be angry at something. It's okay for your kid to be worried about something. Let them feel that, because guess what? They're going to feel it when they get older. And if you don't give them the opportunity to experience it early in life and find ways to deal with it, they're going to be lost when they get older. So I think that emotions are good or bad is really the core mindset. I think it relates to another mindset, which is around kind of being open and curious about emotions versus closed and critical and judgmental. And a lot of people, because they see emotions as good or bad, they start judging themselves like, I'm weak because I feel anxious, and things of that sort, which only gets in the way. We call those feelings about our feelings. Part of, just to be a little bit biographical here, part of the reason why I didn't talk about the bullying that I experienced when I was young, which I was feeling fear and shame, was that I kind of knew that my father was a toughen up kind of guy. And so I was embarrassed to tell my own father, who was a tough guy, that I was feeling shame and fear and because of the bullying. So we have feelings about our feelings that interfere with our communication about them.
You talk about the idea of becoming an emotion scientist, right, as opposed to an emotion judge.
Correct.
And what are some of the first steps that anyone can take when they want to develop the skills of an emotion scientist?
I think the first step is openness. Just like there's no bad emotions. I can be curious about what I'm feeling. The second step might be to get granular. So don't just say, like, ask me how I'm feeling right now.
How are you feeling?
Fine. Okay. Like everybody else that's not really fine but says they're fine. So like that doesn't have any meaning. Good. Get granular. You don't want to be, you're not going to say I'm feeling this odd mixture of anxiety, frustration, overwhelm, and it's a little bit too much. But you want to get specific. I'm feeling right now, to be frank, I am feeling multiple emotions. I'm feeling content because I think this is a great school and I love being with the two of you. I'm also a little tired. And I'm feeling, after spending the day with you guys, I'm feeling reflective and curious about like how to support you and going deeper with the work. That's what I'm really feeling. And so being a scientist acknowledges that specificity. And then finally, I think a big part of being an emotion scientist is having what we like to call a growth mindset about how we deal with those feelings. So I don't have to do much with my feelings right now because they're in a place that doesn't need regulation. But if I were feeling overwhelmed or, really frustrated or something else, I would need to regulate. And I need to learn those strategies. And sometimes they'll work and sometimes they don't work. And people with a fixed mindset basically say, doesn't work. I've tried it. Like I'm never going to get good at this. And like, it's whatever. It's just, this is who I am. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mind says, curious, like, why didn't that work? Maybe I can try it a little differently the next time.
And the feeling is going to keep coming back.
Yeah, feelings, just so everybody knows, you're going to have feelings from the moment you're born till the time you die. And they're going to be a roller coaster ride, I promise you. You can either ignore that information or use it wisely.
Interesting. When you were talking about regulation, I noticed that in your book, you took quibbled a bit with the semantics.
Yeah.
Right. That, perhaps that's perhaps an impediment or it blurs really what emotional regulation is. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah. Well, I thought, when I ask people like in the workplace, I always do this, like, when you hear the term emotion regulation, what do you think about? And most people say control, or suppress or hold back. That's not what emotion regulation is. Emotion regulation, at least from the lens that I teach it, is about learning how to use all of your emotions wisely to achieve your goals in life. That's it. Use your emotions wisely to achieve your goals in life. Sometimes that means feeling more of an emotion. Like sometimes it's okay to be excited and to be super excited and be pumped up, and you want to prolong that excitement because you're at a game and you want people to be excited, and you got to figure out like, how do I conjure up all those pleasant feelings? Sometimes you got to learn how to downregulate. If you're overwhelmed and you're about to meet with your donors, you're going to be like, let me think about a way to, I could be more present with my donors. Sometimes it's about being prevention focused. I can anticipate I'm going to be anxious as a kid going to take that test or to play that sport. And I'm going to think what I can do now to be more prepared to take the test or to, be the best possible player on the team. So emotion regulation is a set of goals. So preventing an unwanted emotion or initiating an emotion or reducing an emotion, and a set of strategies. And so the whole book dealing with feeling is about the strategies. So what do? Well, you can have a good mindset about them. You can label those feelings clearly. You can learn how to breathe properly and, shift your attention. You can shift the way you think about things, like not be so negative and be a little more positive. You can reach out for social support and get other people's perspectives. You can get good sleep and eat the right foods, and get activity in your life. And all those contribute to healthy regulation.
That's very helpful. Now, Dr. Brackett, in your book, you also talk about co-regulation.
Yeah.
Okay, what can you tell us about that?
This is the idea that we are responsible as parents, as teachers, to help other people regulate their emotions. And co-regulation from a developmental standpoint really starts off at birth. You're regulating your baby's nervous system. When the baby is born and the baby is growing, what does the mom and dad do? They hold the baby close to their heart so they get warmth. The baby cries, you give a little cooing, you breathe, with them, you speak in a very soft tone to get them to be calm. And that back and forth between the baby and the parent is called co-regulation. But the ultimate goal of co-regulation is to support the healthy nervous system of the baby. That we don't want our kids to be in fight-flight mode all the time. Not helpful for their health or well-being, anything. So we're always trying to bring our kids down to a place where they're at kind of this homeostasis. As adults, it looks a little different. I'm not holding you and cooing, Diego. You may want that, but I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. What it is I get to know you. And I know that Diego is into mindfulness. So when I see you getting upset about something, I remind you, remember that technique that you left, Diego, that one breathing exercise? Why don't we do that together right now? Or maybe just think about that. It's a parent with their kid knowing that the kid is overwhelmed from all their homework, that they need a break and they should just go out in nature. You're in the woodlands, right? Go out in those woods and take a little 15-minute break and give your kid you some space to just not be overloaded by something. The idea is finding what works for the people you care about, keeping that in your pocket and pulling out some of those strategies to support them in regulating their emotions.
Mm-hmm. And now you also talk about how, emotions are contagious, right? So it sounds like it is very important for adults to know how to regulate if we want to really help our children.
Well, yeah, because we can influence our kids. So if you as a parent are coming home from a rough day at work and you're annoyed or irritated with a colleague because it didn't go the way you expected, and you walk in the house, you're like, I can't take it anymore. This is ridiculous. And you start yelling with your spouse or whoever's in the house. And, that creates an emotional climate. And so those feelings get caught by our kids and they start feeling the tension. They start having some negative thoughts. And what's interesting about that is that when you ask the kids how they feel, they may say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but they won't be able to tell you why. And that's the magic of emotional contagion, is that we catch it subconsciously, which can be dangerous, right? Because we don't want our kids to be absorbing through osmosis our anxiety or stress, which is why, I recommend to parents, before you go home, do a mood meter check-in. You should know the mood meter by now. It's been at the school for 8 years. And you just, before you open the door to your house, you just take a breath and you say, how am I feeling? Oh, I'm so irritated at my colleague who was nasty today and I can't get over it. And just by naming that feeling and attributing it to its cause, it will change the dynamic when you walk into your house. And then your kid might say something like, how's your day, Mommy? Don't talk to me. You're still agitated. Well, instead of saying that, you might say as a parent, honey, Daddy had a rough day at work. He just really got into an argument with someone. It didn't go very well. I feel terrible about it. I need about 15 minutes to myself to just think about what I'm going to say tomorrow because I want to fix the situation. I just don't like the way it went. And so I love you. We can play. We can do your homework together. But Daddy needs a little bit of time to just decompress and figure this out. But I promise I'll be available to you in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And so what do I do in that situation as a parent? A, I'm practicing self-awareness. B, I'm sharing how I'm feeling with my kid, even though it's a negative feeling. C, I'm not judging it. D, I am also saying I think about people because I care that I made a mistake and I said something that was not kind to a colleague. And E, I'm strategizing. I need some space to figure it out. All that happened in a matter of 2 minutes. That's the, like, if I had like my dream come true, that would be kind of a norm in our homes.
It's and that's what you said earlier to our faculty about some of the discomfort that folks may have, adults may have with this topic, and is the concern that there's no time for it, right? And
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, actually, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time
It takes very little time
to do this.
Well, and guess what takes more time? When, let's just do a little role play, Steve. I know you're going to love that. Says, Daddy, let's play. I came home from work. Daddy, you promised me you'd play with me today.
Not now. I can't. I had a.
No, you're supposed to be the kid.
Oh. We're gonna have to edit this part out.
No, it's good.
Oh, so I'm the kid.
I'm walking home and I open the door and you automatically, because you're so eager to play with Daddy.
Dad, I can't wait for you to play. I've been thinking about this all day.
Steven, I've had a rough day at work. I need some time. Like that's what a lot of parents might do unconsciously. Is just be like, I can't take it right now. Like, stop yelling, stop talking to me. Daddy's had a rough day. So what is the message there?
Yeah. Right.
Right. And then what are the ramifications later on? Kid doesn't really feel safe. Kid doesn't really want to talk to you. You are not role modeling any healthy behaviors as opposed to what I did prior, which is I see you. I love you. I want to be with you. It's just not going to happen right now because Daddy had a rough day. Daddy needs to process. Daddy needs to think about it. Daddy's going to come up with a strategy. Once he does, he's going to come back out. We're going to have a great time together.
And by that, you've then modeled that approach then hopefully for the child.
Yeah.
When they're going through something tough, perhaps with
Exactly.
peers or with you as a parent.
It's normal to talk about the good things and the uncomfortable things.
And when we talk about feelings and emotions, it seems like we're talking about something is very hard to grasp. And at the same time, you talk about an emotion regulation budget.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So that goes back to the chapter on the sleep, the nutrition, and the physical activity, which is that, I think about teachers because I'm in a school right now. By definition, teachers are engaging in a lot of emotional labor all day long. So they're, good morning, class, and how are you today? And we're going to do this learning. And they do that 7 times a day with 7 different classes, as an example. And then they have to go home to their own families after that. And it's like, I am not saying good morning, everybody, good evening. I'm done for the day because their budget is depleted. Does that make sense? Even though maybe they have something going on at home, or maybe there's a parent who's sick. Maybe there's a sister who's, going through a divorce and they're thinking about that throughout the day and they're feeling stressed and whatever else. Maybe the lesson flopped, whatever it is. They're, portraying the emotion they think is going to best serve their students' learning goals, which is okay. That's your job. But it's tiring. It's depleting, right? You're a head of school. You can't be walking around with a sourpuss, like, another teacher's complaining. You're not going to do that. You can't do that. You might do it secretly, but you're not going to do that because that's unprofessional. And so you're paid as the head of school to show up a certain way, but you don't get paid at home to show up the same way. Neither do the teachers. And so my point of this example is that you have to figure out for yourself how to replenish your budget. And does that mean going to the gym before work or after work? Does it mean before I go into my house, I park my car and I take 3 laps around the block to just give myself space to separate work life from home life? Does it mean, spending like a half hour cooking a healthy meal that we can all enjoy instead of picking up gross takeout? Does it mean having clear boundaries around sleep and saying, no matter what, I know as a scientist, as a professor, I was told when I was in graduate school, the work never ends, right? And your job as a leader, you can always be working. So the only boundary that is going to work for you is the one that you create yourself. And so I've had to create those kind of, if I, like when I came in to visit you guys last night, I went to the gym at 8:30 at night and I spent an hour on the bicycle, took a shower, and then just kind of like chilled out and went to bed. I did that because I know that I will be a better version of myself for you guys and for me today. And so I know that about myself. And so that was my way of replenishing my budget from sitting in the planes and, just feeling kind of like congested and stuck. So that budget piece is grossly underestimated, because when people think about emotion regulation, they mostly think about it as like saying things to yourself like, Mark, you can get through this. Or like, Diego, what do you think I can do about this? They don't see the direct connection between their sleep quality and habits, between the foods they put in their body and their physical activity, and how that creates the budget to do all the cognitive work.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And my college is about the role play debacle.
You did a good job. You're not a third grade teacher, so it's all right.
Yes. They had a lot more skill than I do in these things. And one of the things, I've been, as we look to the future, with our students here, we're thinking about not just our current students, but we're thinking about the future students. And that's the important part of what we've learned so much from your work are these skills, this perspective, this mindset. And, I've been seeing a lot of it, whether it's the World Economic Forum, 2030, 2035, one of the top skills kids are going to need, workers are going to need, is emotional intelligence.
Correct.
Does that buoy your spirits? Does that give you pause knowing,
No, it makes me gratified, because, I've been thinking quite a bit about that as a phenomenon. It's taken us a while to get there. I think that most education systems are outdated in terms of what the portrait or graduate needs to look like. And parents are stuck. I want my kid to have these kind of test scores. I want them to have this kind of grade point average. They have to take AP this. They have to do, the language arts piece, the math piece, the science piece, all important. But it's only part of the portrait. Because if you look at the workforce today, especially with technology being where it's at and where it's going, what people, AI can write the paper. AI can write the instructional manual. AI can do so much of the work. And so what are we going to need? We're going to need people who can really lead organizations and manage teams. And what I hear from the workforce is something quite interesting. What they're telling me is that, Mark, the Yale students, for example, they're really smart, but they're not great at taking feedback. They think they know everything. They're not that inspirational. They don't deal with anxiety well. They don't deal with disappointment well. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people who, yes, can problem solve and be critical thinkers, but who know how to manage emotions and know how to create teams where people want to come to work.
Well, in with your work, as a result of your work, we feel that we're a better school community.
Thank you.
Because of the efforts, the mindset, and some of these skills. And we hear from our alumni, some who are at Yale, and those that are out at so many different universities. When they come back, they often highlight the emotional intelligence, the skill set that they've gleaned, whether it's taking a few breaths, whether it's being an emotion scientist, right, Diego?
Absolutely. Like that consistently, they just because of what you were saying is like that is what it's really the real world demanding. So when students go beyond high school, they realize the importance of this.
Yes, it's true. Interestingly enough, today when we were interviewing students, there were a bunch of students who've come from preschool all the way on up. And there are a few new ones. All of the new ones, actually, all of them said something remarkable about your school, which you should feel good about, which is that it feels different. And that it's a different culture, a different climate. It's a different, there's a bit more safety in terms of being your true self and talking about feelings and having strategies to regulate them. So that's a big deal. And you should feel really good about that.
Well, we do, and we feel great about the opportunity to talk with you again today. I have one last question. I'm interested in what is currently piquing your curiosity, something that you are interested in now as you're looking ahead, as working with people around the world. What is piquing your curiosity?
I would say that along the lines of my new book, The Dealing with Feeling piece, is that I know that the UNESCO and the World Economic Forum, we talk about emotional intelligence as being a core attribute of what it means to be smart or successful. But the successful piece for me is really interesting because I think that a world filled with only academically gifted people is a little bit of a boring world. And that if we were to reevaluate and think that emotional intelligence is a large component of what it means to be successful, what would be different, at least from my lens and from what the research would support, is that we'd have people with many fewer mental health challenges. We'd have people with way better relationships. And we would have managers and leaders who were concerned about the well-being of others.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for that. And we're excited for your ongoing work with us and the schools and organizations of which you are part. So thank you, Dr. Marc Brackett.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take care.